Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to the Cook County Bar Association live on CAN TV. I'm attorney Leonore Carlson, and I'll be your host this evening. Our guest for tonight is attorney Samuel Jackson III. Attorney Jackson is a native of Chicago and graduated from DePaul College of Law and is a criminal defense attorney. And tonight we will be discussing criminal law. If you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to call in. The number is at the bottom of your screen. It is 312-738-1060. Again, that number is 312-738-1060. As you may or may not know, the Cook County Bar Association is the oldest association of African American lawyers and judges in the United States. We take this time every week on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. to bring you a special guest to discuss legal topics and to provide you helpful legal information. Although I am an attorney, I do not represent your interests. If you need an attorney, please contact our lawyer referral service. You can find the information on our website, www.cookcountybar.org, and someone can refer you to an attorney. Before we begin our program, I would like to remind you that the views and opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Cook County Bar Association, its board members, its officers, its members, or its sponsors. And at this time, I would like to hand over the show to Attorney Samuel Jackson III. And Attorney Jackson, if you can, just give us an overview of the criminal justice system and the process that occurs whenever a crime is alleged to have happened.
No problem, Nora. So I know the first thing you all must be wondering with that name, Samuel Jackson III. First off, no relations. But I am a criminal defense attorney here in Chicago, and I have been doing this for quite some time now. So a brief overview of the criminal justice process can be divided into 7 chapters. First chapter would be the initial arrest at the police station or getting arrested. The next step would be bond court, where a bond was set for that person's release. After that, there would be we're assuming it's a felony charge, there'll be either a preliminary hearing or a grand indictment to decide whether or not there's probable cause to go forward with the case.
And it looks like we have a caller right now. Caller, do you have a question?
Good evening. I want to ask the attorney, could he comment on the importance of remaining silent and not remaining silent? What are the consequences besides making more work for your attorney?
Okay, that is a very good question, and that's actually that'd be chapter 1 of the whole criminal process. Arguably, one of the most important parts: remaining silent. So first and foremost, every individual who is arrested by a police officer has a right to remain silent. They do not have to talk to police officers, give any information whatsoever besides their name and booking information, which would be just address and just address, really, not even the phone. To contact phone number is required. The importance of remaining silent is that once the officer has you in the interrogation room, you're generally by yourself, especially if you haven't called or your family hasn't called for an attorney for you to be there. Now, when you're there with the cops, they'll be the only ones who will hear your statement unless it's recorded. And it's very infrequently that a conversation is recorded unless it's like a high investigation, such as a murder or something like that. But regardless that if it's a much smaller felony, the cop and you will be the only persons in the room. And then depending on what you say to the police officer, the cop will describe that in their words. They'll write a police report based on what you said, describing it in the way they believe it happened, which in the long run may not be actually what you said or what you intended to say. So the reason any good criminal defense attorney would tell you to remain silent is so there's no confusion. If you have an attorney there, he'll probably be there with you and tell you not to talk to the officers at all. Let them bring the evidence against you. If you choose to talk, this would in fact make more work for your attorney because now you'll have to deal with the statements, whether or not they were proper to be given in the first place, whether or not what actually was said is the way the person who said it, who is alleged to have said it, actually said it, and whether or not it's going to be used against you if you go through a motion or a trial in court. So you have to summarize my answer in short, you have an absolute right to remain silent. If you're arrested, you don't know why you're in the police station, or even if you do know why you're in the police station, Invoke your right to remain silent and tell the officer, I want an attorney. I don't want any questioning done without an attorney. Now, they may try to say, well, we're going to keep you here longer. We're not going to send you to bond court. We're not going to let you go. If you tell us, it may be better for you, which is never the truth. Or if you tell us, the judge going to know you didn't want to talk to us. That doesn't matter. Listen, invoke your right to remain silent. Ask for an attorney.
Thank you, caller. So going back to the beginning process, what happens after someone gets picked up?
Okay, so we'll just finish the overall view. There were 7 chapters. First, the arrest. Second, bond court. Third, preliminary or grand jury. Let's say it goes fourth. The 4th one would be the arraignment. The arraignment is where you enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. And in most felony cases, when it first starts, you enter a plea of not guilty. And then you'll do what's called a motion for discovery. Discovery is when you get all the information that the police officers and prosecutor intends to use against you.
It looks like we have another caller. Caller, what is your question?
Attorney, could you comment on the importance of when a police officer tell you you are under arrest, not to jerk away or do anything like that, because how it could make a situation much more worse? People don't understand, if a police officer tell you you're under arrest and you make one step back, can you explain the type of complications, the problem, and more money you're going to spend out for doing that by any chance?
Okay. So what I believe the caller is asking about is, let's say the officer believes there's enough reason to actually place the person under arrest. And they inform the person that they are not, in fact, under arrest. And they try to do the arrest, and the person starts trying to walk away, say, hold on, or pull away, or something like that. That usually falls under the charge of resisting arrest. So in Illinois, by statute, you have no legal right to resist arrest, even if later on the arrest turns out to be unlawful. That's by statute. And so the issue with that is when you say pull away or something like that, you can face the charge of resisting arrest. And since with that statute, it'd be more likely that a judge is going to believe that the person pulled away and that they would be, in fact, guilty of resisting arrest. These types of cases will always be held by a jury trial if you want to fight it, especially if the action was such as just a pull away or back, or it wasn't such like a full-out run, or you tried to fight with the officers or anything like that. But the issue with that is, it's best, you can't not resist a legal arrest. If you are placed under arrest, the best thing to do is go along smoothly with it. No need to curse, yell at the officer, or anything like that. Just remember the sentence, officer, am I free to leave? If you have handcuffs on, the answer is pretty obvious, but you should ask it anyway. Officer, am I free to leave? If they say no, say something insulted for whatever. Now it's your turn to say, well, officer, I'm under arrest. I want an attorney. I'm invoking my right to remain silent. And then you deal with it from there.
Thank you, caller. Let's get back to the 7 chapters you were discussing.
Okay, I believe we were on chapter 4, the arraignment. Arraignment is enter a plea of not guilty or guilty. Then the discovery, that's all the information that the police officer and the prosecutors are going to use against you will be given to the defense attorney within probably the next 2 or 3 court dates. After the arraignment phase, you have what's called the pretrial motion phases. This is where most cases that are dismissed or taken care of occur in this phase. You would do motions to, say, suppress statements, suppress any evidence if it was seized illegally, and suppress various other things for rights violation. After that, if the case hasn't been done there, then you go through with the trial stage. Obviously, you have a choice between a bench trial, which is a trial by just a judge, and the trial is when the judge determines whether or not you're guilty or innocent, or you have a choice of a jury trial, which is when 12 people of our peers are selected and we perform the trial, and they determine by unanimous decision whether or not you're guilty or not guilty. If it's an ununanimous decision, then the case is dismissed. But in order to find you guilty, all 12 people have to agree. And the final stage would be post-trials, post-trial motions such as appeals, or if it was a sentence or agreement or plea agreement, possible expungement afterwards at that. So those would be the basic 7 chapters of any criminal charge from beginning to end.
If you're now just tuning in, this is the Cook County Bar Association live on CAN TV. I'm your host, Leonora Carlson, and I'm here with attorney Samuel Jackson III, and we are discussing criminal law. If you have any questions, please feel free to call into our live show. The number again is 312-738-1060. Attorney Jackson, can you go into a little more detail about what happens at the very beginning stages when someone gets arrested and about the bail system?
Okay, so we're going to start off, give you a hypothetical. We want to make it a felony charge to just make it a more smooth-like process. But imagine 4 young individuals are standing outside in their neighborhood. Cops come up, see all 4 people standing there. They detain them. They do a search around that neighborhood, and maybe like a car or 2 down, they find a firearm underneath the tire of a car. Cops don't know who firearm it is, so they decide they're going to arrest all 4 people. Nobody confesses to it. They decide they're going to arrest all 4 people. And now they take them all to the police station, hold them for an investigative hold, and at the end of, say, the 48 hours, they determine they've picked one that they've going to charge the gun with. Now, this person is charged with aggravated UUW, and it's a felony charge. Now, most people don't know that in Illinois, you can legally own a gun, and now after 2013, you can actually legally possess a gun outside. The problem is you need 2 pieces of things. One's a FOID card, a firearm owner's identification card, and in order to bring it outside, you need to conceal carry. Most people are unaware of this. So, for this example, neither of those 4 people had a FOID card or a concealed carry, or at least the one who got charged didn't have a FOID card or a concealed carry. But now that person is facing a felony charge. Here's how it will go and here's how it should go. Ideally, once that person is arrested of the 4 people, he says, "Officer, am I free to leave?" They say no. They put him in a police car, takes him to the police station. When the second the officer comes into the hold, they're going to read you what's called the Miranda rights. Basically, we all probably seen this in TV shows, Law and Orders. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed for you. You understand these rights, blah, 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 and they'll get you to sign a piece of paper. The ideal situation is that person is to say, "I'm not signing this piece of paper. I do not want to talk to you. I, in fact, want to invoke my right to remain silent, and I want an attorney present." That would be the ideal situation, but most people don't ask for an attorney, don't know they have the right to an attorney, and really don't even understand their Miranda rights. So now we're in the interrogation. They decided to sign a piece of paper, and now they're talking to the cops. They find out, hey, this person doesn't have a FOID card, so they know that this gun carries a felony charge. For some other reason, they decide the other 3 aren't good enough. Maybe he was just the closest person to the car, and they charge that person. Now, during this time, everybody has a right to a phone call as well. Most people don't know this. Most people don't ask, "Officer, can I make my phone call?" Generally, they're supposed to give this to you within the first hour that you're in the police station after you ask for it. So you have to ask for this right to use the phone call, or they won't bring it up. This is a very important time. If you use your phone call to call a family member and say, "I'm in trouble," or "I'm in a police station, I'm not sure what's going on," maybe you should call a lawyer for me. The reason this can be helpful, of course, if you call a private defense attorney, that defense attorney can come to the police station. If you yourself don't know the exact words or don't feel comfortable, that lawyer could come into the interrogation room and invoke your rights for you. He can say, "Officer, my client doesn't want to answer any questions. He's invoking his right to remain silent." You can hold him for as long as the hold, and then you'd either have to release him or you have to charge him and move him on to Chapter 2 bond court. That'd be an ideal thing. But most people don't know that you can ask for an attorney, and most people don't realize the importance of having an attorney while the person is at the police station, the family or the individual themselves. So that'd be the main thing I'd want to express about the arrest. Invoke your right to remain silent, as we mentioned earlier, and if you can, use your phone call, ask your family to send an attorney to the police station for you, just to invoke your rights, to make sure there's no confusions about what's going on, and the officers won't bring up any statements in the discovery phase that we have to try to suppress later on. So that'd be the most important thing that I can tell you about the initial arrest.
It looks like we have another caller. Caller, what is your question?
Attorney, can you please elaborate on how police officers try to tell you like they're your friend and they trying to help you, and they really working for the prosecutor, and the person you have on your side is your attorney, and how they try to get people to make certain type of confessions, and they tell you certain things like self-responsibility. Could you comment on that?
Okay. What the call is asking about is basically interrogation tactics. And the cops have been working on these interrogation tactics for years. They even have books about them, just about interrogation tactics. About isolation, locking the person alone in a room for periods of time. To go through some of them. The one you talked about, telling her you're a friend. This is sort of the compassionate technique, where they say, well, they may even offer you cigarettes, McDonald's, some chicken. They offer all types of things. I've come in there and seen my clients eating full Big Macs in the interrogation room like it's a normal conversation, like a normal day. They're trying to make it normal for you. But what's going on is they're trying to lure you into a false sense of security. Well, if I wasn't your friend, why would I give you food? If I wasn't your friend, why would I give you a cigarette? You can trust in me. You can tell me what's going on. These cops are absolutely not your friend. These cops have an objective. Like, for example, with the scenario I gave with the 4 people, their absolute objective was to at least get some information to charge at least one of them with this firearm. They found the gun. Nobody's claiming to it. Now they want to charge. They want to charge this gun to somebody, and they're not your friends. Let's just put it that way. This is when the attorney would come in. He would invoke your rights, and that would be the end of the conversation. They have what they have, and we could go on from there. Another tactic is this will affect badly on you, where they tell you, so if you don't tell us what happened now, the judge or the jury will never believe you later. They're going to think you talked to your attorney and made up a lie. That's absolute nonsense. If you go to a motion or to a trial, the prosecutions can never bring up the fact that you used your constitutional right to remain silent. No jury will ever hear that. So that's an absolute lie. And then if it's a violent crime, they'll also bring up the fact that, well, if you don't tell us now, it looks like you're not compassionate, it looks like a cold-hearted monster or something like that. Once again, these are absolute lies. They are individually looking at you to try to figure out what it's going to take to get you to say something, get you to talk, start talking. Because once you start talking, they can write the script how they wanted to if it's not recorded. Once you start talking, they can shape your words in their report the way they want to. And if you have no lawyer there, who's going to say anything different besides you? And that has to be dealt with at the motion or trial phase. And the last one I'd say that most people don't know about is you don't remember the words, I want an attorney, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. So you sit there and be quiet. What the officer would do, he would literally just come in, sit across from you, and he won't say nothing. And he'll just stare at you. And now you think, like, well, what's the purpose of this? But imagine somebody staring at you for just 30 minutes. Just sitting there across from you staring, like. At some point, you might feel the need to look over and start talking to that person. If you don't remember the words, I want an attorney, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. Remember, don't start talking to the officer if you have nothing to say. And you shouldn't have anything to say without an attorney present.
Thank you, caller. If you're just now tuning into our show, this is the Cook County Bar Association live on CAN TV. I'm Leonora Carlson, your host, and I'm here with attorney Samuel Jackson III, and we are taking your calls now right here live. Feel free to give us a call at 312-738-1060. Attorney Jackson, let's go back to the beginning stages of the prosecution. What happens in the bail stage?
Okay, so after, let's say with our scenario with the 4 guys, one guy is charged with a firearm. He has no forward card, so it's a felony. The next thing, he'll be sent to bond court. But
it looks like we have another caller. Caller, what is your question?
Yes, how you doing?
Fine.
Okay, if I get arrested and I want to if I get arrested, I want to use my rights to say I need a lawyer. So I have this one phone call to make. Who should I call? I don't have a family member, so what would be a suggestion to use that one phone call for? And then what would I guess when I tell them I need a lawyer, what would that lawyer do for me as far as my rights? Will he be there to help me or just to tell me my rights?
So that's like a 2-part question. Let's break that up. Now you've watched our show. Let's say you get arrested and you know that when you get to the police station, you ask immediately for a phone call. So let's say you don't have any family members in town, or let's just say you're a person who has all your phone numbers stored in your phone, and you got arrested without your phone, so you don't remember anybody's phone number. What I would then say is prepare and memorize an attorney's number. But if you don't have the luxury of doing that, you have to really call any. It's best not to try to find an attorney at the police station. It's best to try to remember anyone you know who will pick up the phone call for you and tell them to call an attorney for you. Because once that person knows, they'll make as many phone calls as they need to. So if they can call 5, 10 attorney officers until one picks up and can make it to the police station. Second part of the question is, you made the phone, you called the person and you told them, but now the cops are trying to interrogate you before anyone's come. What do you do now? You should still invoke your rights. I want an attorney. I'm invoking my right to remain silent. Now, what this does is, while the cops won't personally call an attorney for you, they know that they can't question you without an attorney. So most likely, that'll be the end of the questioning. You will just sit there either under the investigator hold until your time is up. You will be immediate release, or if they have enough to charge you, you'll be sent to bond court. So to sum it up, call anybody you can remember and tell them to call an attorney for you, or if not, invoke your right to remain silent, ask for an attorney. Cops won't give you one, but they should stop questioning you. And if they don't stop questioning you, ask again and again. Just keep saying it. If I have a client who, if I read the transcript and he said he asked for an attorney 50 times and they kept questioning him, that'll make me a very happy person. Because no matter how the cop phrases their statements in the report, I'm going to get that thrown out, and we're not going to have to worry about that.
Okay, looks like we have another caller. Caller, what is your question?
Yes, I just called in just to let them know that I'm one of those John Burge guys that got tortured, and my case was like that they arrested me at my house, although they said that I voluntarily went. Now, once we got at the station, he said that he read me my rights, and by the state's attorney leading this questioning to him, she said, "Well, did you have a conversation with him?" And he said yes. She said, "How long did the conversation take?" He said 10 minutes. And okay, after that conversation, what did you tell him? I told him he was under arrest for nothing. And I served 27 and a half years for this. But now after that, this is when all of the torture come in at, and I was supposed to told the state's attorney guy that I did this. And going to the suppression hearing, then the judge just skipped right by that, just like I was supposed to be arrested. Now, you all is asking pertaining to this, well, I'm going to say you're asking, but you're making a statement saying that what we need to say when they invoked our rights to not to say nothing. But what happens when you don't say nothing and you get charged with first-degree murder for nothing? Oh. And then they wrote it. They wrote this in my transcripts that I was arrested for having an oral conversation.
Okay, so just to give a summary to some of the people who don't know what the Burge is, Burge was a cop in Chicago who allegedly beat and tortured people into giving false confessions for over 10 years at the Chicago Police Department, and a lot of those cases have been brought up and overturned, and some people have been released, some people have been confiscated. So ideally, going to your initial question of what do you do when they're claiming that it didn't happen that way? So as I stated earlier, that's why it's best to always invoke your rights, because that way they can't manipulate your statements. But the Burge situation was not a routine thing. It's not, basically he's alleging that these people just falsely made up what happened. They falsely made up what happened. They falsely said what he said, and that they used this information to convict him, and they didn't do anything about it in the trial motion. I would say normally this is not the case, but you can't, there's nothing that a defense attorney, besides a defense attorney coming there and personally witnessing you not saying these things, really not much a defense attorney can do except for deal with it in the motion phases in the court. Invoke your rights, remain silent, leave that questioning alone, and then that would deal with the honest cops. You have not too much to deal with, and the crooked cops, hopefully with you and your attorney discussing, you get that mess thrown out.
It looks like we have time quickly for one more question. Caller, what is your...
Good evening again, attorney. Could you please elaborate, like, if I understand things correctly, no reputable attorney is going to be asking you about what happened in the police station. And could you please go a little bit farther about how families were discussing the case in the police station? There is no such thing as family confidentiality in terms of how police can pick up things in the police station when what you tell your family.
Okay, so let me cut through this. I'm getting a wrap-up signal. But absolutely. So any defense attorney is not there to figure out what happened in the police station. That's not the best time. In fact, the attorney may be just hired specifically to come to the court by the family, to come to the police station, invoke your rights, and make sure you don't say nothing. So if a defense attorney is asking you questions to say, hey, we'll talk about this at your office when you get me out of here. Secondly, when they allow you to see family members, especially if you're under the age of 18, and the family member is normally instructed to ask you what happened, figure out what happened. Do not discuss the case in the police station. At that time, it's being recorded.
All right, looks like we're out of time. I would like to thank the viewers for tuning and calling in. I would like to thank Attorney Samuel Jackson III for being our guest, and I would like to thank Mika Thompson for being our phone tech. On behalf of the Cook County Bar Association, I hope you had a wonderful holiday season, and we wish you the best in the new year.
Law Office Samuel Jackson III, located in Hyde Park. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Good night.